Hey gamers, welcome to World 9. Today's video is all about Twilight Princess. Now, Twilight Princess HD is not that far away for us Zelda fans, and it got me thinking about Twilight Princess in general. The original Twilight Princess came out when I was 16, so it was like the Zelda game that I played as a teenager. So just because of that, it has a pretty close relationship with me. But I feel like Twilight Princess is one of those Zelda games, or at least of the 3D titles, that a lot of people hate on it. Don't get me wrong, there's obviously a huge fan base for Twilight Princess as well, but when you go on the internet, you see a lot of the same complaints for this game. Now, don't get me wrong, the game is not perfect. There are problems with Twilight Princess, and there are problems with every Zelda game, really. But I wanted to just kind of rant about, well, a good rant. I wanted to have a good rant about the positives at Twilight Princess. I want to put a good spin on this game as we head into the HD remake, or HD remaster, really. And, usually I have a script with my videos. This is just completely free-form, just talking off the top of my head, things about Twilight Princess. Things Twilight Princess did right, to prove that it's actually a pretty good Zelda game also. Alright, first I want to tackle one of the biggest subjects people always talk about with Twilight Princess, and that is Hyrule Field. Now, Hyrule Field, or really the overworld in general, is always a big aspect of Zelda, right? It's pretty much where you're spending the majority of your time in Zelda. And one of the biggest complaints that Twilight Princess gets is that, it has this big, massive overworld to explore, and there's nothing in it. There's no enemies, there's no sense of danger, there's not enough side quests, and yeah, that is a valid complaint compared to other Zelda games. It is pretty vacant, I guess is one way to put it. But there is one thing that I loved about this Hyrule Field, and I feel like people never take the time to acknowledge. There were so many little secrets in this Hyrule Field. Like, big secrets, little secrets, just tons of little details to find. So first of all, this is the only Zelda game where you need 5 pieces of heart to complete a heart container. So that one change alone means there's a lot of heart pieces in this game, and they're just kind of scattered all over the place in Hyrule Field. I thought it was so much fun to just kind of run around looking for them, and, there's always random caves that, a bunch of random caves, you're like, oh, I'm just gonna bomb this. Oh, look, it's a cave. And it's just like a huge labyrinth in there. Yeah, sure, sometimes, the reward at the end is a piece of heart. Sometimes it's just, a pointless rupee that you don't want. But, it was just, I thought it was very cool how I never knew what this cave was gonna be like. There would be left turns, right turns, it might be deep, it might be short. And, then I remember, other random stuff that I discovered. There's this, one tree that has a bunch of, crows flying around it, and if you happen to shoot all the crows, it rains rupees. And I remember doing that, I was like, oh, okay, I didn't expect that. And there's a lot of little stuff like that in Hyrule Field. So yeah, it's a little empty, enemy-wise, and definitely side quest-wise, but I don't know, it's actually one of my favorite overworlds to just explore in, to be honest. Especially when you compare it to, Skyward Sword. That was, that was much worse of an overworld than Twilight Princess. So, Hyrule Field is a positive, in my eyes, in Twilight Princess. Could be better, but there are good things about it. Now, next, I'm going to talk about what I think is the best thing Twilight Princess does, and that is the dungeons. I think Twilight Princess has the best dungeons of any 3D Zelda title. Now hear me out. The dungeons in Twilight Princess are massive. They're really large. I feel like they take the concept of dungeons from Ocarina of Time and just expand them. Skyward Sword, for example, it had some cool dungeons, but it tried to be really new and unique. I feel like Twilight Princess is the traditional Zelda dungeons that we love, but and they were pretty challenging also, honestly. Puzzle-wise, I remember I got stuck in the Lake Bed Temple for a little bit trying to figure out how to raise the water level, and City in the Sky is this huge labyrinth of a dungeon that it's challenging but not frustrating, I feel, dungeons, puzzle-wise at least. The bosses are pretty easy, but I can't stress enough how much I love the dungeons of Twilight Princess. I don't feel like it gets enough recognition for how well designed the dungeons are. Snow Peak Ruins, that's an amazing dungeon. That's the Jabba Jabba's belly of Twilight Princess. That dungeon that you didn't expect to be a dungeon. Wait, this is a Yeti's house. Or Arbiter's Grounds, I will stand by always, as I think is my favorite dungeon in Zelda history. So yeah, dungeons in Twilight Princess, that's a thumbs up. And then there's the characters in Twilight Princess. There's a lot of characters that I like, or really I like the portrayals of a lot of characters. You know, before we get to the obvious one being Midna, I want to talk about Zelda for a second. Zelda is portrayed in a very different way in Twilight Princess. I feel like some people liked it and some people didn't like it. She was very much so, like, in the background. She wasn't as important compared to other Zelda games, but I mean, the game's called Twilight Princess. Guess who's Twilight Princess? Not Zelda. So that, you know, that's kind of the point of the game, that it doesn't focus on her as much. And I kind of enjoy that. And, you know, usually, like, there's kind of this subtle romantic thing hinted at between Zelda and Link. That is not here at all. She, you know, she acts much more like a queen in this game, and so elegant, and, like, her design is awesome. So I just love that new, you know, approach they took to Zelda with this game. And then there's Midna. Midna is a phenomenal character, one of the greatest characters ever introduced into the Zelda fandom, because, you know, you always have this sidekick that helps you out, but, like, in the beginning, like, the game makes you hate Midna in the beginning. I remember first playing the game, I thought that was such a unique character trait. I was like, wait, you're not helping me, you're a jerk. And, you know, seeing how she evolved as a character to, you know, accept Link and trust Link and, you know, understand Link's motives, like, she is still the most powerful sidekick character Zelda game has ever introduced, and she has an interesting backstory, and just everything about Midna deserves applause. Good job, Midna. Good job, whoever designed her and made her. Great job. So, yeah, character portrayals and just some new characters. There's other cool characters I introduced. Not Colin. Colin's terrible. But, you know. And, okay, I just thought of another thing. Here's another kind of cool aspect of Twilight Princess I feel like is never talked about. You know, ask anyone what is the best Zelda game ever made, and, you know, you're always going to get different answers, but I think the most common answers you hear are either Ocarina of Time or A Link to the Past, depending on if you prefer the 3D or 2D titles. And I don't think people realize how many parallels there are between A Link to the Past and Twilight Princess. Already, like, people consider Twilight Princess a love letter to people who like the Ocarina of Time, but, you know, the Link to the Past connections are ignored all the time. So think about what is the storyline in Link to the Past. So Ganon is stuck in the Dark World, which was the Sacred Realm, and he uses Aghanim. Is that how you... Aghanim? I never knew how to pronounce it. I'm going to say Aghanim. He uses Aghanim as like a puppet to kind of control things in Hyrule while he's still in the Dark World. Now let's look at Twilight Princess. Ganondorf is sealed into the Twilight Realm, and he uses Zant as a puppet to kind of control things in Hyrule and spread Twilight through Hyrule. Just, like, that is like such a direct, like, Zant is the Aghanim of Twilight Princess. And then even when, I think it's after you get the Master Sword, or it's something, like, at some point in the game, Ganondorf even puts, like, a pyramid around Hyrule Castle, like, sealing off, like, just like the Pyramid of Power in A Link to the Past. Like, that's, you know, I think it's really cool because, like, it's already been confirmed that there is a set-in-stone timeline for The Legend of Zelda. So, like, even though things branch off from Ocarina of Time, you know, the Ganondorf in Twilight Princess is the same Ganondorf in Wind Waker, and it's the same Ganon in Link to the Past, just at different times. But they're the same person. They have the same motives. So, like, you know, it makes sense that Ganon in the Link to the Past timeline would create the Pyramid of Power, whereas the same Ganondorf would do a very similar thing in Twilight Princess. Just like the circumstances changed, but not his motives and what he would do. So I thought that was really cool too. There's other little subtle things that I noticed in A Link to the Past, but those were like the major ones. And like, just, I don't know, I find that pretty awesome. And last but not least, I want to talk about like the theme of Twilight Princess. Now, what do I mean by the theme? Well, you know, you can ask any Zelda fan, like, what makes the game so great is how distinct each game feels. You know, if you play Wind Waker, which is all cheerful and adventurous, and then play Majora's Mask is significantly sadder and more depressing than Wind Waker. You know, sadness is kind of the theme of Majora's Mask, and Twilight Princess is no different, but I feel the theme in Twilight Princess is hope. And what I mean by that is, Twilight Princess is really the only game where when you start off, at the beginning of the game, the villain is basically victorious. You know, besides the Orden province, when you leave your town, all of Hyrule is in Twilight. That was Ganondorf's motive, and he already succeeded, and Orden's not part of Hyrule. Like, that's, so, he won. He got all of Hyrule in Twilight. And instead of preventing an evil action, you're reversing something that's already been done. And like the idea of people in Twilight just being lost spirits, and like there's so many cutscenes where Link is the only hope for Hyrule, which that's always the case in every Zelda game. But I really feel like there's a lot more storyline tropes and cutscenes that really emphasize the fact that, like, even though everything looks bleak and this is the end, there's always like that one character, Colin, that knows Link's gonna come save us, or always that one character, Ilia, I think Ilia, that just trusts in Link. And I think this game, more so than any other, emphasizes that character trait in Link, that he is the one hope for this land. And I thought, look at Kakariko Village. It's all run down, destroyed. There's like blood smeared on the gates and stuff. Like there's no other game where the main town looks like that. Like, this is a game where the damage has been done. The world is already messed up, and you're the only one that could. You're not even really saving anymore. You're just saving what you can, because there's already been so much damage. So yeah, and that kind of goes back to the Hyrule Field argument, where a lot of people say it's so empty and vacant, but that kind of adds to the theme of Twilight Princess. I don't know. I can go on, and don't get me wrong, like I said, there are things the game does wrong, but these are the things I think it does really, really right. And Twilight Princess is a great game. I wish, more people kind of focused on these aspects. But what aspects do you think make Twilight Princess a good game that I didn't mention? Or do you think it just absolutely sucks? I want to hear what you think, so sound off in the comments below. Until then, I'm excited for the HD remake. Go play some Zelda till it comes out.